everyone, Helen McConnell here from PurposeProsperityHappiness.com. Thanks for joining me for this three-part series of videos about emotions and clutter. Today I want to answer the question, what do my emotions have to do with my clutter? Besides the obvious, my clutter drives me crazy, there are emotions behind your clutter. Emotions are at the root cause of your clutter. And if you want things to be different, something has to change, and that something is your thoughts and your emotions, the ones that are behind your clutter. I struggled with clutter for so many years, probably from the time I was about 5 until the time I was about 50. That's a long time to live a cluttered life. It's very much a struggle. It's embarrassing. It causes anxiety. It ruins relationships, I can tell you that. It wasn't really who I was. Although I used to say things like, oh, I'm just a messy person, or I can't keep up with this mess, or life is too complicated, or whatever. No, but there were some deep emotions behind this clutter. And it wasn't until I found tapping that I really got clarity about it. So I'm going to talk to you about 3 of the most common emotions, the things that are the root cause of clutter. See if you relate to any of these. And there are other types of clutter. There's mental clutter. The mental clutter feels the way your physical clutter looks. Okay, so when our mind is just jumbled up with all kinds of stuff and we can't seem to get it organized, that's mental clutter. They go hand in hand oftentimes, mental and physical clutter. There's physiological clutter, which usually shows up in digestive issues or other physical problems. Sometimes it's just the stress that can cause back problems, more serious diseases. I'm certain you probably have one of the types of clutter. So what are the emotions behind clutter? Where did all this start? For most people, it started a long time ago. Something happened, and at some point we could figure out what that thing was. We're not here to blame or anything, just to assess and do some investigation. I call it emotional archeology, where we're digging down and trying to find the emotions that started this process. So a long time ago, one of 3 things probably happened. Something was so uncomfortable and you learned not to feel. And one of the ways you learned not to feel was to hide behind your stuff, have a mess. And that just continued on. So a lot of times clutter is a way to hide from our feelings, or hide from something, or hide ourselves from something. Clutter can also, the stuff part of it, maybe came about because somewhere along the line you got the idea that a thing or a person was going to make you feel good, and you've been chasing after that ever since. It may have been a real experience, like when you were a kid, somebody gave you something really nice and you felt so good and it was a loving, warm, cozy moment, and you've been trying to recreate that ever since. Or what I've discovered is that a lot of times this desire for a really great feeling has come from a movie or a book. And in that movie, especially with images and stuff, there's an emotion and a scene that involves a particular thing or person, and we're chasing after that fantasy. So we're chasing after trying to recreate a really good feeling. No amount of stuff is going to give us that. We got to get that in here. Okay, another common emotion behind clutter and mess is rebellion. For example, it could be one of a couple of types of rebellion. Maybe you knew someone who was super neat growing up, who's just naturally neat, maybe one of your siblings. And if your parents ever once said to you, why can't you be more like your sibling? Why can't you be neat like him? That alone can give us enough of an emotional impetus to keep clutter around us. I'll show you how much I can't ever be like that person. That's one type of rebellion. The other type is perhaps your parents made you keep your room clean all the time. Like you had to stay in on Saturdays when all your friends were out playing, you had to stand and clean your room. Could be a rebellion in your messiness. At first, okay, so it's kind of natural to want to be messy when our parents made us be neat. But then there comes a point when we want to be neat and we can't be neat even when we want to. We're kind of rebelling against ourselves in a way. We're telling ourselves, I don't want you to tell me what to do. I don't want anyone to tell me what to do no matter what. It's not empowering at all to be that way. So rebellion isn't empowering. Clutter's an inside job, and it's something that part of it we need help to take care of. We can't hire someone to take care of our insides, but we need help, usually. So let me repeat the 3 most common emotions behind clutter, because if you have clutter, one of these probably applies to you. Until we really get to the emotional cause and clear that emotional cause by going back and completing old feelings, healing things, we're never going to get rid of the clutter for any length of time. The 3 most common emotions are hiding our feelings, or hiding from something. So not wanting to look at our feelings. It's a whole lot easier to avoid our feelings if our house is so cluttered that there's always something to do even though we never really get around to doing it. It's a great sort of distraction or excuse from feeling our feelings. The second most common is chasing after a feeling that we've had before, that we are hoping to recreate through stuff or a person or something outside of us. And what you will find is that it never works for any length of time. Relying on outside things to feel good never works for any length of time. So we have to, it's an inside job. We got to take care of that inside. Okay, the third thing is rebellion. Rebelling against the way we were raised, rebelling against someone, and sometimes rebelling against ourselves. So we have clutter. So we can prove to somebody that no one can boss us around, or we're not like that, or whatever it is. Either way, it's not really being true to who we are. So I hope that answers your question about what do emotions have to do with clutter. And I hope you'll stay tuned for part 2. Part 2 is about tapping and clutter. And then part 3 is, how can I really make this work? I'm going to give you 3 tips in part 3 of really getting started to make this work so you can begin to clear the clutter in your life. Part 2 will be coming up tomorrow. Stay tuned.